Okay, let's dive right in. What if I told you that one of the biggest dangers to your health after 60 isn't some new disease, but actually a medical test? I got this sort of insider confession from a doctor with over 2 decades of experience, and he's sharing something his colleagues might not love, but he feels he just can't stay quiet about it anymore.
And there it is, the big, counterintuitive idea from our source, Dr. Michael Kent. He says that sometimes the absolute worst thing you can do for your health is to get too many tests. I mean, that's a really bold statement, right? It goes against everything we've ever been told about catching it early.
And this is probably exactly what you're thinking right now, and it's a totally fair question. We are all wired to believe that more information, more data, earlier detection, that's always the best way to go. But what if that conventional wisdom has a hidden and, frankly, dangerous downside? So let me introduce you to the villain of our story. It's this concept that completely changed how Dr. Kent practices medicine, and it's called the cascade effect. This is what happens when one seemingly harmless test sets off a chain reaction that ultimately causes way more harm than good. This right here, this lays out the trap perfectly. It all starts with you feeling totally fine. You get a routine test, and it finds a little something, a spot, a shadow. Well, just to be safe, the doctor orders more tests, and that leads to an invasive procedure, like a biopsy that has very real risks. And here's the punchline. 9 times out of 10, you find out it was nothing to worry about in the first place. You're just left with all the anxiety and the side effects from a test you probably didn't even need. So how do we avoid this trap? Well, let's break down 4 specific tests that very often kickstart this harmful cascade, especially for folks over 60. First up, the whole body scan. The marketing for these is genius. Scan everything, find anything. But the reality? It's a lot different. These scans are absolute masters at finding what doctors call incidentalomas. Basically, things they find by accident that are almost always harmless. But here's the thing. Once they're found, they can't just be ignored. And this number, this just shows you the scale of the problem. Up to 95% of healthy people over 60 will have these harmless incidental findings pop up on a scan. Dr. Kent has a great term for them, wrinkles on the inside. It's a totally normal part of having a body that's lived for decades. But, they don't look so normal on a scary medical report. So what's the smarter way to think about this? Well, instead of looking for pictures of problems that might not even exist, focus on your function. Can your body actually do what you need it to do? I mean, these simple questions tell you so much more about your real health than a scan ever could. This is all about optimizing the health you actually have. Next, let's talk about a fear so many of us have: memory loss. Maybe your kid is worried because of some minor, totally normal forgetfulness and pushes for a brain scan. The promise is peace of mind, right? But the reality is often just plain terror. The MRI report will come back with things like mild cerebral atrophy or white matter lesions. These are terrifying terms for what are basically the brain's version of wrinkles and age spots. And get this, over 90% of perfectly healthy people over 75 have these exact findings on their MRI reports, even though they have totally normal cognition. The images just don't match the person. You can be sharp as a tack, but your scan looks abnormal. And that creates this devastating anxiety for absolutely no reason. The better alternative is to test the function, not the picture. Simple in-office tests can see how your brain is actually working. And, crucially, a doctor should always check for reversible causes first. So often, memory fog isn't some scary disease, but a totally fixable issue like a vitamin deficiency or a side effect from a medication. Okay, test number 3, the routine stress test before some minor surgery just because you've hit a certain age. It sounds logical, but think about it for a second. If you can walk a couple of miles or climb stairs every day without chest pain, your daily life is your stress test. And guess what? You're already past. So the smarter path here is to just listen to your body. If you have symptoms, then absolutely get tested. But for predicting future risks when you don't have symptoms, a coronary calcium score is a much better tool. It's a quick CT scan that gives you a number to help guide prevention with things like diet and exercise, not one that automatically sends you down the road to invasive procedures. And finally, our 4th test, and this one's a bit controversial: routine colonoscopies after age 75 for people who are at low risk. The key here is all about the risk-benefit balance. A colonoscopy's risks, like the dehydration from the prep or even a tear in the colon wall, they go up with age. At the same time, the benefit of finding a cancer that takes maybe 5 to 10 years to become a problem, well, that benefit starts to diminish. Now, the alternative isn't to just ignore your colon. It's to shift from screening to what we can call smart surveillance. That means paying super close attention to any red flag symptoms, and more importantly, being proactive. Honestly, the best thing you can do for your colon is to eat a high-fiber diet. That's real prevention, and it comes with zero risk. So, all of this brings us to the main takeaway here. We need to stop chasing these perfect test results and start focusing on what really matters. So, let's call it the new rule: function over findings.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? What is health, really? It's not a number on a lab report or a perfectly clear MRI scan. Health is being able to take a walk, to play with your grandkids, and to live your life with joy and independence. That's the real goal. So, how do you actually put this into practice? Let's build your action plan. This is your toolkit for becoming an active, empowered partner in your own healthcare. This slide right here gives you the exact words to use with your doctor. These 6 questions, they are your power. The question, what will we do differently if we find something, is so important. Because if the answer is probably nothing, then you really have to ask why you're doing the test in the first place. And here it is, the whole explainer on a single slide. You've got the 4 tests, the hidden risk of that cascade effect for each one, and the smarter function-based alternative. This is the key takeaway. Shift your focus from findings to function. So we'll end on this thought. The next time a test is offered, just take a breath and ask yourself this one powerful question. Is this test truly going to improve my quality of life and my ability to function? Or is it a tool to quiet an anxiety that might, ironically, end up creating even more? The answer could change everything.